The U.S. election process is a multi-step procedure that takes almost 2 years to complete. The process begins with candidates announcing their intentions to run for president. Then, primaries and caucuses are held in each state to help political parties choose their presidential nominees. After that, national conventions are held by each party to finalize their selection of presidential and vice presidential nominees. In the months leading up to the general election, candidates participate in presidential debates and campaign across the country. On Election Day, which is the first Tuesday after the first Monday in November, citizens cast their votes for president and vice president. However, the president is not elected directly by the people but rather by an electoral college. Each state has a number of electors equal to its number of senators and representatives in Congress. In December, these electors cast their votes for president and vice president. The candidate who receives a majority of electoral votes, 270 or more, is elected president. Finally, on January 20th, Inauguration Day, the newly elected president is sworn into office. Primaries and caucuses are two methods used by political parties to select their presidential nominees. A primary is an election in which voters cast secret ballots for their preferred candidate. Primaries are run by state and local governments. A caucus, on the other hand, is a private meeting organized by a political party. During a caucus, party members gather to discuss and debate the candidates before selecting their preferred nominee. Caucuses are typically held at the county, district, or precinct level. The specific rules and procedures for primaries and caucuses vary from state to state and between political parties. Some states hold only primaries, some hold only caucuses, and some use a combination of both methods. National conventions are events held by political parties to finalize their selection of presidential and vice presidential nominees. During a national convention, delegates from each state gather to vote for their preferred candidate. Delegates are chosen through primaries and caucuses held in each state. There are two types of delegates, pledged and unpledged. Pledged delegates are required to support the candidate they were awarded to through the primary or caucus process. Unpledged delegates, also known as superdelegates, can support any candidate they choose. In most cases, a candidate wins a majority of delegates during the primaries and caucuses and is confirmed as the party's nominee at the national convention. However, if no candidate wins a majority of delegates, the convention becomes contested and additional rounds of voting are held until a nominee is chosen. After the presidential nominee is selected, they officially announce their choice for a vice presidential running mate. The Electoral College is a process established by the United States Constitution for electing the president and vice president. It consists of 538 electors, with each state having a number of electors equal to its number of senators and representatives in Congress. The District of Columbia is also allocated 3 electors. During a presidential election, citizens cast their votes for their preferred candidate. However, these votes are not counted directly towards the election of the president and vice president. Instead, they are used to determine which candidate will receive the support of the state's electors. In most states, the winner of the popular vote receives all of the state's electoral votes. However, Maine and Nebraska use a different system where electoral votes are allocated based on the winner of the popular vote in each congressional district. To win the presidential election, a candidate must receive a majority of electoral votes, 270 or more. If no candidate receives a majority of electoral votes, the election is decided by the House of Representatives.